So Nahum, a rare book in the Bible. You never hear about Nahum chapter 3, verse 6, but it's the scripture that you see that's on a big dark screen at the beginning of the movie Nope. And that's not much of a spoiler. It's just inviting you to understand that we're living in times of spectacle, that the scripture talks about spectacle. The scripture talks about understanding that many times than not, we make spectacles of ourselves because we're afraid of what is coming. We focus on the spectacle of Armageddon, World War III. We focus on these things because we're being told that that is what is coming. We, as a country, appear to be mindlessly thrashing around like a bull in a china shop. But the empire, the imperial cult that I warn you about, they know exactly what they are doing. And it's what they've been doing since the end of the Cold War. They open up formerly inaccessible markets, eliminating internal resistance. They aggressively restructure any and all territories, especially those that say they're not going to play ball with this cult. There's this umbrella or this ecumenical brotherhood or whatever they're trying to push. You know, I know right now, a lot of people think it's gratifying to wave the flag or, you know, whenever things flare up militarily, it's okay, you know, go Army, go whatever. But at some point, we as Americans, we have to face the fact that we are living in a time where our leaders are going to sell us out to the global empire, which is actively pursuing its global interests right now. Not in sovereign nation states pursuing the interests of nation states. They are pursuing their own plans. They are gathering together to push their depopulation agenda with Agenda 2030. So the fact that the nation state is defunct is why I believe that there's a resurgence in nationalism. And I know that we've been focusing on, you know, pre-1930s nationalism and how it ended up being like fascism and blah, 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 blah. But we're in the death throes of the nation-state nationalist and national sovereignty, and this is like the supernova of a dying star. We're seeing the final stand, if you will, with those who consider themselves nationalists and those who consider themselves patriots. It's a reaction of spectacle. It's a reaction of spectacle of Armageddon. The very idea that was talked about in Nahum chapter 3, verse 6, which, of course, is, I said, trending on the internet because of the movie Nope. And it just seems synchronous that, and I was talking about synchronicity, I was talking about the quantum aspects of this, but there's another scripture, actually a chapter in the Bible that's trending right now on the internet, and that's the 38th chapter of Ezekiel. And in the 38th chapter of Ezekiel, there's this prophecy that predicts that after the army of God gathers, their purpose will be to attack what they think is the defenseless kingdom of Israel. So this prophecy refers to the great battle commonly referred to as the Battle of Armageddon, which will precede the second coming of Jesus. Now, the reason it trended was because of something that happened that maybe you didn't hear about because the news doesn't cover stuff like this, but it was very important for apocalyptic watchdogs to understand. Russian President Vladimir Putin made what the Washington Post called a rare international trip to Iran a few days ago. Putin's trip is troubling for a variety of reasons, according to the Post. First and foremost, Russia and Iran are shunned by numerous nations, including the United States. These isolated countries share in that dynamic as well as in their quest for power. Beyond that, Putin's trip seems to indicate closer ties between the allies as he met with Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, and before convening with the Turkish President Erdogan. It's impossible to ignore the fact that Putin's visit to Iran comes right after President Biden visited Israel, which, of course, is the nation that Iran has repeatedly threatened. Biden and Israel addressed concerns over Iran. This has been a very hot, long-standing global issue for which no real solution seems to be on the table at the moment. Take that along with the other global catastrophes and events unfolding, and there's a lot to discuss right now. The world, my friends, is in a precarious juncture. And it can be seen that this meeting can be and does fulfill prophecy in the Bible. This is why Ezekiel 38 was trending on Twitter. It all boils down to the Gog and Magog prophecy discussed in that chapter. And there are a lot of people that believe that the whole northern Gog-Magog reference is about Russia. Many believe this Gog is an individual. It's going to be the future leader from Russia, thought to be Magog. According to Ezekiel, this Gog from Magog will attack Israel and other partner nations, including Persia. Modern-day Iran, of course, is Persia. But God's going to step in and defeat the coalition. So, second coming is not far away. So, here we are. We're to believe that the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel wrote 2,500 years ago that in the last days of history, Russia and Iran will form a military alliance to attack Israel from the north. So how's that for I guess you could say, a nice retrocausal prophecy where leaders are actually prepping for a future event which could very well be an attack on Israel? And some Christians are seeing the meeting between Iran, Russia, and Turkey as a harbinger of prophetic fulfillment. In contrast, others cast doubt on that idea, and they charge that current events could be getting improperly jammed into some biblical prophecy. I'd like to know what you think. Is this a fulfillment of prophecy? Is Ezekiel 38 giving it to us, and we're seeing it happen with this meeting? Or are people improperly jamming this into biblical prophecy because they want it to fit? I mean, one thing that I can see here is the prophetic fulfillment would explain a lot, okay? If this is prophetic fulfillment, then this would explain the urgency of world orders to organize the imperial cult utilizing fascism and corporatism. This is why the UN met with the World Economic Forum to immediately establish the depopulation agenda of 2030. This is why President Biden, wanted to declare a climate change emergency so that they could push their Green New Deal through as immediately as they can. They see the time as being short. This is something that was said in COP26 when Prince Charles spoke at his friends at Davos and said that there needs to be a war footing. There needs to be something done in order to change the way we do things on this planet, and that is to create the imperial cult. It's to create the kingdom of the Antichrist. It's the only thing I can come up with that certainly I think fulfills this type of prophecy. And with Russia, Iran, Syria, Turkey, Iraq all meeting together, forming an alliance, we can only determine that the alliance is being formed for what reason? To declare war on Israel and several of Israel's allies. This just might be the meeting that will set us up for Armageddon, that sets us up for the eschaton. What do you think? 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. We'd love to hear your opinion on this. If you're a Christian or a non-Christian or whatever, and you see this happening, we know that these governments and empires are now working faster to bring about their sustainability agendas. And this, I believe, is the reason why. Some event is coming that they're preparing for.